Hello, hello. We are the Transpositions. Good evening. It's Thursday night. We got stuff to cover. It's gonna be a long ride.
It's going to
It's
be a
gonna be a rough
day.
year. We gotta freaking stick together though, peeps. We gotta keep on trucking. I can only tell you that. They if we give up now, what was the point of any of it? So thank you so much for returning. If you're a returning viewer, if you're new here, obviously, you can hit the subscribe button if you like what we're doing. We also have a Patreon if you want to help support us and sort of give us a little funding for the channel. If you want to participate, if you have a story to report that we missed, something happening locally in your area, perhaps, definitely feel free to let us know. We have a newsroom Discord that you can join. And if you join that Discord, there's a place to send us good news and bad news and other news. And there's also a slew of resources there available for people that are transgender or trying to better understand transgender people. So feel free to join the Discord as well. And hopefully, it'll help everybody understand the world a little bit better that I exist in, that Steph exists in, and that we want you to know is not too much different from the world that you exist in.
In fact,
Uh,
it's the same world, and we all need to hang together and take care of it
mhm.
a lot
Yeah.
better than we have been lately, I think.
We do
Maybe.
not have our trans position sports segment tonight. Carly is working on something huge. I don't know if I'm allowed to disclose about, so I'm just going to say it's huge, and you're not going to want to miss it. So,
It has something to do with superb owls, as I
yes,
understand it. Yeah.
yes, that's
So
what I heard
it's an
too.
ornithological expedition that she's out on right now,
Yes,
and I don't know whether it involves barns or hoots or hollers or whatever, or great horns, but
yeah,
it's a superb owl nevertheless.
superb. So, I believe Ember will be joining us. I believe she's just running late. Sometimes her work keeps her a little bit into the evening, but if not, then we'll just truck on without her because we do have a good news segment from Ember
We
regardless.
do.
Yeah, so
We do
keeping
indeed.
that in mind, yeah. Tonight I have just a few things that we're gonna crack open. Let's jump right into some stuff here. Let's
Yeah.
jump right in. I'm gonna start with this military stuff because I've been kind of avoiding it, but pieces are kind of are moving in a better direction than or faster than I hope, and I hope that this goes through and this lawsuit breaks this whole thing before it even gets started. But as we know, among Trump's executive orders this week, there was a military ban for transgender soldiers, which is nonsensical and uh, discriminatory. So they're rightfully
And
being
also
sued.
extremely costly. I think it's worth pointing out that it's going to, if this sort of thing goes into effect, the Department of Defense did do a study on how this sort of thing would affect the military in terms of
Mhm.
not just loss of service, but loss of training. Uh, all told,
How much
it
they've
would
invested in those? Yeah,
in direct costs. We're talking about $18 billion, and some estimates rise as high as $200 billion. I mean,
no.
it's stupid, and it also uh, in a time when volunteers for the military, for the all volunteer military service is and recruitment is having a hard time. It's a great way to cut your nose off to spite your face.
you know, let me get through this. This is from Reuters. Rights groups file lawsuit against Trump's transgender troops orders by Idris Ali and Phil Stewart. This is fairly recent reporting here. from Washington, January 28th. Transgender right advocacy groups filed a lawsuit on Tuesday against the U.S. President Donald Trump's executive order that targeted transgender service members. And what would be the first legal challenge to a cornerstone of his conservative agenda at the Pentagon. Trump,
Hey, Bree, is there any way we can blow up the text a little bit? Just make your,
yeah.
Control plus or something, because it's really hard to read. There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Trump signed an executive order on Monday that took aim at transgender troops in a personal way. At one point, saying that a man identifying as a woman was not consistent with the humanity and selflessness required of a service member. The lawsuit filed
What about a woman identifying as a man? Apparently,
that's not a real thing. That's not a real thing that happens, Steph. That's not real.
Yeah.
That's made up. That's left wing. That's left wing propaganda.
Yeah, not to quibble about the whole idea of identifying, but nevertheless, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. We'll do that. I was doing the paragraph thing, but only as with segments here. So the lawsuit filed jointly by GLAD Law and the National Center for Lesbian Rights in a district court in Washington, D.C. challenges the constitutionality of the executive order and said it violates the equal protection component of the Fifth Amendment. The plaintiffs include 6 transgender service members and 2 individuals looking to join the military. Reuters was the first to report plans to file the lawsuit. Yeah, so I'm glad that there's people that are getting involved. That's what we need. Mm-hmm. The more people that are involved, the better. And if you remember from last time, a lot of the executive orders didn't even make it past the lower courts, right? They didn't even make it to the superior courts to get challenged. They got struck down right away the very first time.
Absolutely. So it's really important to remember that a lot of this stuff is going to be tied up in the courts or tied up by some sort of action. If history is any precedent, but then again, we live in unprecedented times. It's important to remember that that's the idea. And a lot of the executive orders that are being released are being challenged in multiple venues. For example, U.S. District Court in D.C., U.S. District Court in the First Circuit, which is Rhode Island. There's been lawsuits filed in Rhode Island around these executive orders that attack all sorts of programs. That Project 2025 pulled out of their ass, or stuffed out Donald's ass to be pulled out just as a present on Inauguration Day. Anywho, yeah.
Right. So the executive orders signed by Trump said that expressing a gender identity different from an individual's sex at birth did not meet military standards. When the order banned the use of invented, in quotes, pronouns in the military, it did not answer basic questions, including whether transgender soldiers currently serving in the military would be allowed to stay, and if not, how they would be removed. Trump's order has been heavily criticized by rights groups and some Democratic lawmakers. Yeah, because Trump has a very tenuous understanding of law in general, other than what his personal lawyers will try to steer him, but he doesn't understand law.
Well, can you blame him? He's been convicted of violating the law 34 times.
Yeah. He's a professional at breaking the law. He's been doing it since the 70s.
Yeah.
President Trump's executive order is an insult to the bravery and service of transgender service members, Senator Andy, Kim said. How can we have a military that protects all Americans if it doesn't recognize and respect all Americans? He added. During his first term, Trump announced that he would ban transgender troops from serving in the military. He did not fully follow through with the ban. His administration froze their recruitment while allowing serving personnel to remain. So last time that this happened, that's kind of how it was handled. Some of the people that, at least in some branches and some positions, some of the people got to stay in their position. And it's the same thing what we were talking about at the beginning of this with these executive orders. None of this goes into effect now. It has to go through all these processes and has to be challenged in the courts and before any of this like sticks. And a lot of it doesn't stick. And a lot of it's still getting challenged by the time that his administration's over, and then it just dies in court because it's no longer politically advantageous for him to be pushing for that to go through. So a lot of factors will come into play. Let me
I think it's really important.
Oh, go ahead.
I think it's really also important to realize I don't think these guys have any intention of this administration ever being over. I think people got to put that in the back of their minds because they are a totally lawless bunch, and you know they're already making noises about making it possible for Trump to serve a third term, which he'll probably be dead by the time he runs again. But aside from that, I wouldn't put it past them to nominate him anyway.
After he died.
Yeah. But Anarchic Fox makes a really great point in the side chat. My concern is that when you exclude a group from the military, it makes it easier to use said military against the people you've excluded. Precisely right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we make a big point about how this is all a distraction. Katie Montgomery said something yesterday on her stream that I think I'm beginning to agree with more and more. It's no longer a distraction. These people really do hate us. They really do want to eliminate us from public life. They really do want not just the concept, but the people. I don't think this is a joke anymore. And if you all do really start paying attention about whose ox is getting gored and how. We got a caller today on Takis who was saying that her HRT, the cost of her prescription in Idaho rose to $400.
Yeah. Insulin is the insulin cap that they're removing, right? They had that insulin cap program where it was like $35 was the most that a customer would have to pay for insulin. Because that's a manufacturing, that's considering manufacturing and stuff. That's not a profit for the manufacturer. They're just putting a cap on how much they can charge for it. And yeah, this administration wants to roll all these regulations back. They want totally unregulated systems like that are going to result in higher prices across the board, higher prices for your gas, higher prices for your eggs, all that stuff about lowering the prices. They said they can't do that right after you voted for them. They said, yeah, we can't do anything about that. We don't control we don't control the poultry market. It's bird flu.
Yeah, I was trying to catch some of Joe and Robin's stream before while we were backstage. And they were talking all about that stuff. That it's all kinds of boy, you guys were fooled. But let's
this is fooling me twice right now. Let's shame on you.
Let's not keep fooling ourselves. Hey, Joe. Joe just showed up in the side chat, which is great.
Hey,
thanks for sending people over. I really,
Did Joe rate us?
Appreciate it. Yep, Joe rated us.
Thanks for the raid.
We love you, Joe.
Oh, we had 20. Where's the raid?
I don't know.
Are you bringing a raid, Joe? I don't know. Anyway, let's finish up this article here and move on to the next one.
Let's do it.
President Joe Biden overturned the decision when he took office in 2021. The military has about 1.3 million active duty personnel, Department of Defense data shows, while transgender rights advocates say that there are as many as 15,000 transgender service members. Officials say the number is in the low thousands. When Trump announced his first ban in 2017, he said the military needed to focus on a decisive and overwhelming victory without being burdened by the tremendous medical cost and disruption of having transgender personnel. The burden, of course, the burden of what about having or having people with other conditions and having people with other needs that are included in the military. There's, for instance, like allergies. Should we start banning people with peanut allergies from the military? I mean, there's definitely a financial burden there,
I probably, that would make sense. Can't have anybody going into anaphylactic shock. Although,
you know how expensive those needles are?
Yeah, I know, right?
Epinephrine.
But somebody was making. Yeah, who's making the point here? Yeah, your hooligan Judson's. He's going. Yeah, they're also going to let unvaxxed people back into the army. Now that's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. Talk about a burden.
And well, where did the Spanish flu start? A lot of people say it started in a military encampment in Missouri.
Yeah,
really smart. Really, these guys are such brilliant people. I mean,
speaking of rolling back freaking healthcare, look at this. Look at this. I got another one for you. This is going to probably make you sad, but we'll see. All right. HIV and AIDS care for millions could be interrupted by Marco Rubio's foreign aid freeze. The president's emergency plan for aid relief, or PEPFAR, a federal program that provides HIV medication, is one of the programs on pause during a 90-day review ordered by the Secretary of State.
Jesus Christ. Shades of Ronnie Reagan.
Really? That's what they all want to do. They want to like sit on Ronnie's shoulders. I'm surprised no one suggested putting Wreckham Ronnie on Mount Rushmore, or even Trump himself. I'm sure that's been recommended though.
They want to sit on Ezra Taft Benson's shoulders, the Mormon apostle who was Ike Eisenhower's Secretary of the Treasury, who was also one of the leading lights in the John Birch Society. That's where they're headed.
So Secretary of State Marco Rubio has ordered a pause on almost all foreign aid, which includes the Presidential Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, a federal program that provides HIV medications and has been credited with saving millions of lives. That's millions of lives around the world. The move could jeopardize access to HIV antiretroviral medication for millions, many of whom are located in regions that might not otherwise have access to care, creating a situation that advocates are calling a matter of life and death. On January 25th, Marco Rubio ordered a freeze on all new obligations of funding pending a review of foreign assistance programs funded by or through the department and USAID, according to CBS News. Funding could be paused for 85 days while the State Department conducts a government-wide comprehensive review of all foreign assistance, per CBS. According to the New York Times, a separate directive also specified that decisions on foreign aid may take up to 180 days. The order, however, has been The order, however, will not affect funding for aid to Israel's and Egypt's militaries for emergency food assistance. But it's going to affect the release of AIDS treatment, of course, for millions of people again.
Yeah, and just imagine. All right, well, it's only 90 days, right? Okay, so you're a person getting this medication or something. Oh, go stand over there. And while we think about whether your medication can be continued or not, because oh gee, if you suffer a relapse in the interim, I guess that's just your tough luck. I think the cruelty is in fact the point.
Right.
They really don't want to appear to boost up anything that isn't
that's what this says
heterosexual,
here.
all of this stuff. It's all bullshit. And the point is they've still got it stuck in their head that the AIDS is the gay plague, when in fact in the areas that they're taught that where the aid is going to, it is endemic. Doesn't matter your sex, doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter.
The State
means of
Department
transition is human wide, and it's just because they've got this thing stuck in their head.
The State Department confirmed that the pause would specifically affect PEPFAR funding in an email to NPR on Sunday. State spokesperson and anti-woke lesbian Tammy Bruce said in a statement to NPR that the U.S. would no longer going to blindly dole out money with no return for the American people, and called the pause a moral imperative to let HIV and AIDS run rampant in poor countries that were left to be ravaged post-colonial after they've been stripped of their resources. We have an obligation to these nations as a country that benefited from the robbery of their resources to provide some kind of base level health care regarding especially this specific outbreak, right? It's we can basically take HIV off the table today with the proper treatment. You can live your perfectly normal life. And they want to take that away from people because they don't see a point or don't see how it helps American people to have less HIV in the world, just in general, helps everybody, honey.
Yeah, well, seeing as the nominee for Secretary of Health and Human Services thinks it'd be a damn good idea to reintroduce polio. I guess I guess. Absolutely ridiculous. Oh, by the way, we're not sponsored at all, but I have to suggest this lovely. This is my favorite tea. It's Lifeboat tea, and it's from the English. It's from the UK, and every let's see, where's the thing? This every purchase of Lifeboat tea, with every purchase of Lifeboat tea, 7 pence goes to the RNLI, the Royal. What is the RNLI exactly? It's the lifeboat service. It's like England's Coast Guard. So it's very strong. It fortifies your wits, and I recommend it.
Right. Let's see. Let's continue this one. All right. The temporary PEPFAR freeze comes amid broader fears that the program is in danger of losing funding altogether. On January 16th, Reuters reported that a senior Republican said that the program was in peril after U.S. officials found that 4 nurses in Mozambique who work at a facility that receives PEPFAR funding have reportedly performed 21 abortions since 2021. Health policy organization
Oh, for
KFF
fuck's
states
sake.
that PEPFAR is subject to a number of legal requirements related to abortion, including the Helms Amendment, that's your amendment, staff,
No, it's
which
Holmes, not
prohibits the
Helms. Jesus Christ. Right.
uh, which prohibits the usage of foreign aid to pay for
Oh, wait a minute.
abortions.
That is the Helms Amendment. Yeah,
Right?
that's good old cousin Jesse from years ago. Oh, by the way, no relation. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's one of the South Carolina Helmses. No relation there.
Yeah. In the statement to Reuters, Republican Senator Jim Risch said that the incident meant that the future of the PEPFAR program is certainly in jeopardy. And the cruelty is the point at this point. I mean, the cruelty is the point to take healthcare away from people that we've been giving and they're expecting and depending on that they need and don't have the means to provide for themselves. And we've been helping them out, and we're just gonna pull it back, and you all are gonna all stand up and applaud, and it's disgusting.
Rather.
Can I end this here? Yeah. Okay. So this is we're gonna. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to read what's left of this. In a press release, Beatrice Gristage, I'm not sure how you pronounce that last name. We'll just call her Beatrice, president of the International
Greenstein, I guess.
Greenstein. President of the International AIDS Society said that PEPFAR provides safe or life-saving antiretroviral for more than 20 million people, and stopping its funding essentially stops their HIV treatment. If that happens, people are going to die and HIV will resurge. That's important to remember. This does affect the American people. If you travel abroad and you fall in love with a nice freaking girl in one of these countries and she didn't get this treatment, but I digress. Let's go on. And she said it makes no sense to suddenly stop this incredible catalyst of our global progress towards ending HIV as a threat to public health and individual well-being. In statements emailed to them, Brandon Kuishi, these last names today, killing me, an organizer with...
It's an international stream here. What do you want? Brush up your
I need to. I'm bringing shame upon the transpositions with my poor linguistic skills. An organizer with ACT UP New York said that the organization is shocked that Trump would threaten to defund PEPFAR, a program launched in 2003 under George Bush that has saved the lives of millions of people living with HIV. For the past 20 years, PEPFAR funding has remained a nonpartisan, and Trump's attempt to politicize it in order to fund a tax cut for the rich is disgusting. Right-wing activists and lawmakers have been attacking PEPFAR based on assertion that the program funds abortions for years, even though the program has historically received bipartisan support. In 2023, funding measures for PEPFAR expired after Republican lawmakers stalled its passage, claiming baselessly that the program funds abortion. Oh, guess who's coming up in this next section? The Heritage Foundation.
Oh, wow. What a shocker.
A far-right think tank that is known as the architect of Project 2025 released a report that same year claiming that the Biden administration was using PEPFAR to promote its domestic radical social agenda overseas, and that HIV and AIDS is primarily a lifestyle disease, and as such should be
Oh
suppressed through
my God!
education,
What did I say at the beginning of
moral
this thing? What did I say
moral
at the very beginning of
suasion,
these guys are stuck in the 80s
and legal
so
sanction.
they've got their heads so
Uh,
far up their own butts. It's
yes,
unbelievable.
it's literally, this is like Reagan era. Well, AIDS is a lifestyle disease. What?
Right. Gee,
All
wonder
right.
what the lifestyle is.
Well, do you want something a little more positive before we pop into the good news segment of the show, or we give Ember the floor?
Oh,
Because I can
I don't
talk
know.
about gay rights in Thailand.
I think that would
Thailand,
be a good one to cover. I think that's
yeah.
awesome.
Let's see what they have going on. Thank you so much for sticking with us, all the people out there watching in the live chat. Good. Thank you for sticking with us. Thailand publicly funds trans healthcare following marriage equality victory. This is from Michael James. This was published just yesterday. Just days after Thailand made history with, I'm going to zoom in on this one too, in case you all have trouble reading it. Just days after Thailand made history with the same-sex marriage, marriage is now legally in effect, the nation has taken another groundbreaking step in support of the LGBTQ IA plus community. The Public Health Ministry has allocated 145.63 million bahts. I don't know if that's how you say that or not, but it's approximately $6.9 million to provide hormone replacement therapy to an estimated 200,000 transgender citizens. This is Thailand. Pay attention. Pay attention, people in America who think you live in the land of the free and home of the brave and all that crap. Do you get equal treatment to the people of Thailand? Deputy government spokesperson Enukul Pruka. Oh boy, Pruksan.
I knew you were going to have problems with this one.
Explained that this funding aligns with the government's broader policy on marriage equality and LGBTQIA plus rights, focusing on both physical and mental well-being.
Hey, John.
We should use marriage equality as an opportunity to open another door for gender recognition, said trans right activists. Oh, here's a fun one. You ready for this one? Hua Bun Yap Somparn. Sorry.
Apologize to who. We're very sorry that we are butchering. We apologize to all of Thailand for butchering your names. We're just lucky we can pronounce your country's name.
We appreciate your work there, Hua, because whilst discussing the need for further legal advancements, while Thailand has long been recognized as an LGBTQIA plus friendly destination, many transgender individuals have struggled to access medically supervised hormone therapy. Yeah. Previously, self-funding was the only option, pushing some to seek unregulated alternatives that pose serious health risks. Sometimes you do what you got to do. People get desperate, to get their health care. This has led to complications for transgender individuals, particularly in legal documents. Last week, many transgender women who married their partners found their union officially recorded as a same-sex marriage between men due to the gender markers on their identification documents, highlighting the broader legal gap that still needs addressing in Thailand's march towards full equality. Nada Chayajit, a lecturer at Mae Fa Luang University's law school, notes that we have come far in changing the law, and there is some way to go for more inclusion. Amidst these advancements, Thailand's LGBTQIA community is celebrating the newfound legal recognition of same-sex union. Thousands of couples have already rushed to tie the knot since the law took effect, with some opting for grand ceremonies in Bangkok. The city's governor, Chashart Sidipont, attended one of the largest celebrations, calling it a big day for Thailand. I think it reflects an inclusive society, not just in terms of marriage, but also in our belief, cultures, and religions, he said. And there's a happy couple getting married right there. So, yeah, let's look at Thailand for a minute and be like, hey, is this something right another country's doing? And just acknowledge that it is, and try to do our best to accommodate. All right, I got one more story that I want to cover, but I might save it for after good news because it's kind of grim. So let's do good news first.
We can do good news first, then we can do that, and then maybe you and I can talk about the good old days.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. So I'm going to bring up, not that, this. Okay.
Sit with me for a second. If you are watching this video, that means you woke up today and you decided to keep going. Now, that might seem like a small feat, but what you did was decide to keep representing, to keep being your true authentic self. And that, in the end, is how we win. You see, trans existence is resistance. And honey, you fucking exist. And in the end, that's all you and me have to do. Keep existing. Because every day you do, another person that's never met a trans person before will see that you are just that, a person. Thank you for existing with me today.
Good news, everyone! Tonight, case law to know, Cass continues to go, a new Michigan law, and more. Good news starts right now. First, a correction. During the panel portion of the live show last week, I misspoke about complete androgen insensitivity syndrome. To set the record straight, people with CAIS typically have internal testicles which still produce testosterone, though their body does not respond to the hormone as an androgen. This may seem like a really minor mistake in the context of the discussion, which was about the recent botched anti-trans executive order, but I believe it is important to acknowledge errors, in no small part because accepting when you're wrong is the first step to stop being wrong. That's what sets the science side apart from the promoters of pseudoscience and conspiracy theories that currently dominate the US government. When we get something wrong, that's an opportunity to learn. That's a wonderful thing. And fessing up when it happens, despite the opinions of the political powers, is not, in fact, a weakness to be embarrassed of. It is a demonstration of honesty that makes what you say reliable. It shows you care about what's true, which, call me a traditionalist, I still think is a virtue. Now, first thing first, here's an overview of key legal precedents protecting transgender individuals in the United States. First, Bostock versus Clayton County, decided in 2020. The Supreme Court ruled that Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits employment discrimination based on sex, also protects GSM individuals, including trans people. This case set a precedent for interpreting federal anti-discrimination laws to include gender identity, which protects trans people from discrimination in the workplace. Second, Grimm versus Gloucester County School Board, 2021. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that schools must allow transgender students to use bathrooms consistent with their gender identity under Title IX of the Equal Protection Clause. It affirmed the rights of transgender students in educational settings and has been cited in similar cases across the country, most notably due to the fact that the Supreme Court refused to hear this case, effectively making the Fourth Circuit Court ruling federal law. Third, Whitaker versus Kenosha Unified School District, 2017. The Seventh Circuit Court ruled that denying a trans student access to bathrooms consistent with their gender identity violates Title IX and the Equal Protection Clause. It reinforces the protections for transgender students in public schools. Fourth, Doe versus Boyertown Area School District, 2018. The Third Circuit Court upheld a school district policy allowing trans students to use facilities matching their gender identity and rejected claims that the policy violated the privacy rights of cisgender students. It validated inclusive policies for transgender students and rejected efforts to block them. And finally, Obergefell versus Hodges, 2015. Although primarily about marriage equality, this decision strengthened constitutional protections for all GSM individuals under the Equal Protections and Due Process clauses of the Constitution. It provides a foundation for challenging laws that disproportionately harm transgender people.
Hi everyone. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty scared of this new administration as a trans person. A lot of the stuff that I heard from the inauguration yesterday makes me want to curl up into a little ball and hide and just cry, but I also know that's exactly what they want. So as my own little personal form of resistance, I'm going to do a series featuring a moment of queer or trans joy that I've experienced in my life, with today being day one. So today, my moment of joy is I'm really excited about my new haircut. I went to visit a friend yesterday, and they gave me a really fun undercut, which I've been wanting for a few weeks, and I'm really excited about that. So feel free to share any moments of joy that you guys are experiencing currently. It's really important to just be there and to exist and be unapologetically yourself.
Next, Cass continues to crumble from the trans agenda. Experts at the UK Women and Equality Select Committee criticized the Cass review and the UK's puberty blocker ban, calling them ideologically driven and lacking medical justification. Professor Simona Giordano, a prominent expert, slammed the Cass review for asking irrelevant questions, excluding valid studies, and setting unrealistic trial standards. She highlighted that randomized control trials are unsuitable for puberty blockers in this context, citing ethical violations under the Helsinki Declaration if treatment is restricted to clinical trials alone. Giordano stated the decision to use puberty blockers is a matter of patient autonomy and should not be dictated by politics. In the U.S., law professors Daniel Aaron and Craig Conniff have taken Cass to task, alleging the review, quote, transgresses medical law, policy, and practice. Writing in the New England Journal of Medicine, they highlighted issues such as lack of peer verification, exclusion of non-English studies, and deviations from regulatory and scientific standards. The review, which has lent momentum to puberty blocker bans in the UK and US states, has also faced backlash from the British Medical Association, Yale academics, and GSM advocates. Despite all of science finding it faulty, UK and US governments maintain the position that the review's findings are robust and continue implementing its recommendations. Last Wednesday, Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed an expanded hate crime bill into law due to come into effect April 2nd that adds protections for gender identity and sexual orientation to the statute, as well as increasing penalties for hate crime offenses. The current hate crime law forbids threats and physical assaults, as well as property damage, because of the victim's race, color, religion, gender, or national origin. The new law adds additional categories, including sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, physical or mental disability, age, and ethnicity. It will also protect against discrimination or hate crimes based on the association or affiliation with an individual or group of individuals in whole or in part based on a characteristic described. Under the expanded law, stalking will be added to the list of hate crime actions and is expected to increase the punishment and escalate prison time and fines based on prior hate crime convictions. Michigan's Attorney General Dana Nessel praised the changes, saying that it was needed, particularly after the rise in hate crimes and the, quote, normalization of racist, anti-Semitic, and bigoted language, symbolism, and action. Our state's previous hate crime laws were inadequate to deter and properly prosecute those that target Michigan residents with fear and hatred simply for who they are, AG Nessel said. Quote, hate crimes are intended to send a message, an inherently violent message of intolerance to vulnerable communities. We know that stronger laws such as these can help us better protect Michigan residents from the scourge of hatred.
Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help but
Federal inmate is suing the Trump administration over an executive order affecting transgender prisoners. The lawsuit alleges the president's directive, which mandates the government recognize only two unchangeable sexes and requires transgender women, who are often but not always born male, to be housed in men's prisons. As reported previously, the executive order also ends transition-related medical treatments for inmates. The suit was filed in a Massachusetts federal court by a transgender woman using the pseudonym Maria Moe. Moe, who began transitioning in middle school and has been housed in a women's prison since her incarceration, is seeking to block the new regulations for all transgender prisoners. Moe was recently moved to a special housing unit, and according to the lawsuit, is set to be transferred to a men's prison. Moe's legal team argues that this transfer and the potential denial of medical treatment violate constitutional rights, including equal protection under the Fifth Amendment and protection against cruel and unusual punishment under the Eighth Amendment. The executive order fulfills a promise President Donald Trump made during his campaign to end taxpayer-funded medical care only and specifically for transgender inmates. Under previous guidelines, transgender inmates were individually assessed for housing placement, a process that considered the risk of them being assaulted by other inmates or guards. However, the new order directs the Justice Department to amend these rules based on reproductive anatomy these people may not even have. It should be noted that depriving persons in federal custody of medically necessary care would also violate a federal law known as the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. It should also be noted that, as reported on this channel, Trump's executive order in question is illegal, expressly drawing on a section of the Constitution that not only does not grant the president power to do any of the things laid out in the order, but highlights specifically the federal ethical standards, of which every single one has been violated by the president within his first few days in office. It's one thing to note that the order is unlawful, but it is equally important to note that any illegal law or policy can still go into force until and unless someone challenges it in court. This suit marks the first step in pushing back, or hopefully reversing, some of the damage the felon-in-chief is inflicting on our legal system. Content like this, make sure to subscribe. Transpositions Weekly is the first and only weekly trans news show in the universe, and we need your support to keep this show going. Contribute at patreon.com/TheTransPositions. Spread the word all over social media to let people know we're here, and tell us what stories matter to you by joining the community on Discord. Discord, of course, is where the memes live, and our meme of the week was posted by yours truly. And if you want to stand up to authoritarian bullies in defense of every person's rights to life and freedom, join us. Also, if you have good news concerning trans people you'd like to see reported on, you can tell us about that in the Discord as well. For the Transpositions, I've been Ember Belrad. Stay with us.
I guess that's our cue, my dear. Good news. Thank you so much, Ember. Did Steph, were you having concerns about that song? Is that what was going on? You're muted. You're muted, Steph.
I am muted. Yeah, I am muted. Which I guess is fine. I just need to get it back up again because I had it in going along with the good news issue. I just want to say this little thing has been growing outside my window since the inauguration. And I think I was thinking about it today, and I was thinking, this can't last long. So let me just get this thing up here. It's just sort of a kind of a weird. I understand. Let's proceed. Okay, we're gonna do this window thing instead of the entire screen because the last time I did that, it kind of fucked up. But we'll just do this. We'll share that. All right. So you see a little symbol for a Renai heater outside my window, and underneath the Renai heater is a stalagmite that I made a joke earlier that it's actually Satan's icy dick, but I think it's Trump's icy dick, even though it is told that that looks like a mushroom and is a good deal smaller than that. We have testimony in court about that, actually on TV. But here's the thing. It's going to melt. It's going to go away. It's been growing since Inauguration Day. And you know what? In a month, maybe not even a month, it'll be gone. So I think we can all just, we can all rest assured that
this too shall pass.
This too shall pass. This too shall pass. The weather will change at some point in time. And we need to find our safe harbors with our friends, with people who care about us, in places that we feel secure in. And I know that's really hard for a lot of people, but you got to keep trying. And you've got to. I think you got to realize if you do have the strength and opportunity and willingness to jump in front of the fire hose, also realize you have to find a way outside of the blast to dry off and recover. So I just want to say, take care of yourselves. This has been hard. It's going to continue to be hard. But we're going to be here, and we'll get through this.
And again, we're covering these executive orders just to keep you all informed. There's no promise that these are gonna pass. So I'm not trying to cause a panic by letting everybody know what he's trying to push through, but we're keeping our thumb on it. And I'm going to continue to have my thumb on it until we see what happens. So we'll keep you updated on the progress through the lower courts. If any of this makes it to the superior courts, we're going to track it the whole way, keep you up to date. We're going to tell you the names of the cases, the case numbers, and things like that. We'll be providing all that and keeping you updated on it. So that's why we're still following these so closely. There's ones that I think that may go through, and ones that I think are just going to fall on their face. But Trump signs executive order to restrict transgender care access for people under 19. So more.
Yeah, I read through this yesterday, and it's really, Jesus Christ.
This is as reported by ABC News. President Donald Trump signs an executive order Tuesday seeking to restrict gender-affirming care for people under the age of 19 in order to move to restrict medical institutions that receive federal funding from providing such care, including puberty blockers, hormone therapies, and surgeries, calling on the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services to take all appropriate actions to end the chemical and surgical mutilation of children. The executive order,
which doesn't happen.
Yeah. This isn't something that's really happening in the real world. This is the stuff that happens in a gender critical's head, right? The executive order does not appear to restrict these procedures for non-transgender people under 19. Curious that in the latest action from Trump that impacts the transgender community, which is estimated to make up less than 1% of the population over the age of 13. Trump also recently signed executive orders restricting transgender participation in the military, ending federal legal recognition of transgender people, and restricting gender markers changing on federal documents. Major national medical associations, including the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, more than 20 others argue that gender affirming care is safe and effective, beneficial, and medically necessary. And we got a list that sometimes we run of these. There's like just the ones that impact the USA specifically, and it's a list that's like a mile long, because every organization that works in this field understands
it's over 23 organizations in the United States and worldwide, well over. And also, the president's the executive order, specifically the one about trans youth childcare, refers specifically to the WPATH standards and says they're out the window. It refers specifically to the Bostock decision in Title VII, and says that the president orders that decision be ignored, and that Title IX be interpreted according to the definitions of gender that the president ordered. In other words,
we covered that in deeply last week.
Right.
If you missed it, go back and watch it.
Right. And so what's going on here is a seizure of power, an attempted seizure of power by the executive branch that is full-throated and is fully focused, which is why I said earlier in the show, this no longer feels like a distraction to me. It feels like the real deal. They are determined to take us off the map. And we won't be taken off the map.
Major national medical associations, including the American Academy of we just read that. Hold on, where was I? Amid an increase in states moving to ban gender-affirming youth care, the American Psychological Association said in February it opposes state bans, which are contrary to the principles of evidence-based healthcare, human rights, and social justice, and which should be recognized in favor of policies that prioritize the well-being and autonomy of transgender, gender diverse, and non-binary individuals. Trump's executive order states that it is the policy of the United States that it will not fund, sponsor, promote, assist, or support the so-called transition of a child from one sex to another, and it will rigorously enforce laws to prohibit or limit these destructive and life-altering procedures. The order also moves to exclude transgender-related coverage for young people from federal health insurance policies, including the Department of Defense's TRICARE benefits, the Federal Employee Health Benefit, and the Postal Service Health Benefit. Trump's order expressed concerns that gender-affirming care sterilizes children, saying countless children soon regret that they have been mutilated and begin to grasp the horrifying tragedy that they will never be able to conceive children of their own or nurture their own children through breastfeeding. Or sorry, yeah, is that nurture? No, it's nurture. I thought maybe it said nourish. All right. Medical experts previously told ABC News that they have not yet seen widespread long-term fertility issues in puberty-aged youth who temporarily use puberty blockers while undergoing puberty, that hormone therapy does not necessarily make transgender people permanently sterile, but that it does affect fertility. National guidelines state that physicians should thoroughly warn patients that the potential for reduced fertility before administering hormone therapy. Yeah, your medical professional should be warning you about any kind of side effects. That's just how that's what a doctor does, actually. Otherwise, you wouldn't even need a doctor. You could just take whatever you want and see how it hits you. But no, we have doctors to say, hey, take this much of that. And if you take too much of this, this is what will happen. And if you don't take enough of it, this is what will happen. Doctors are there to do that. So as long as you're utilizing your doctor appropriately, this should not be a matter of concern.
Yeah, that's why there are those warning labels that says if an erection lasts more than 2 hours, so you consult a physician.
Yeah, if you're an American and you don't understand how that everything kills you and destroys your body, you've never listened to the last 20 seconds of any drug commercial on TV. Right? Maybe you're too young to remember when we used to just watch TV and there were commercials for drugs. I don't know. But yeah, the last 20 seconds is always reserved for somebody talking a mile a minute, listing off potential side effects and bad reactions you could have. Let's wrap this up here because there's only this tiny little paragraph left. Gender affirming, or maybe there's not. Yeah, there's only a tiny paragraph. Gender affirming surgeries for transgender youth older than 12 are extremely rare. And those that are performed are also almost entirely chest-related procedures, according to research in JAMA Network, which we can check out. The research at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health additionally found little to no usage of gender-affirming surgeries by transgender and gender-diverse minors in the U.S., instead finding that cisgender minors and adults had substantially higher utilization of such gender-affirming surgeries, such as breast reduction surgeries for cisgender boys and young women than their transgender counterparts. And I think that's
absolutely
a fact.
That is a fact. And and it's also a fact that in none of these bans apply to cisgender kids. In fact, the state of Utah that banned gender affirming surgery for trans girls specifically allowed it for cis girls.
Yeah, and this,
I mean, it's
it's
absolutely blatant where this is coming from. It's a denial of trans kids' humanity, and this is kind of. Do you have anything else, Bree? Maybe we can just. I just want very briefly want to talk a little bit about.
We're done here.
where
I'm
we're
done
at.
with all my segments. You roll into it. You want me to blow you up? I can give you the floor.
No, we can. You know, this isn't going to take a long time.
Mhm.
But I just kind of want to give y'all my thoughts on where we are. This is a world being proclaimed by our emperor that is very reminiscent of the world I grew up in before W. Path, before Harry Benjamin was anything more than the name of a doctor practicing in New York, when he was pretty much the only person in the country who was treating trans people, adults or children, with any sense of compassion. When I was a child and told my mom I was a girl, the treatment was, no, you're not. And if you think you are, we'll take you over here and they'll shut you up and they'll literally do ECT to change your mind.
That's
We know
electroshock
that
therapy.
yeah, electroconvulsive therapy. We know that now to be conversion therapy. And it was applied to homosexual kids, gay kids, lesbian kids, trans kids.
Fat kids, skinny kids, kids that climb on rocks. Everyone. Yeah.
This is the world that our emperor wants to send us back to.
Sorry.
Our emperor wants to send us back to a world where our mental health institutions are run by people like Ken Zucker, whose fundamental goal was to do exactly that for gender diverse individuals. That world was still with us as late as the late 80s and early 90s. And that is the world these people want to return us to. And it is a world that is 60 years in the past and more. Somebody asked me in the side chat on Takis today, did I think that this was a more difficult era? My answer was, in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. I think in some ways, yes, it is, because it's far more challenging because we know better. We know what's failed. We know what has failed in the past. We know what succeeds when it comes to providing comfort for trans and gender diverse individuals in a therapeutic setting. We know better. Medical professionals know better. And we are watching politicians who are disturbed by science and medical experience turn back the clock to the days of my youth. So in that sense, these days are terrible. But in the other sense, we know better. And we can do better if we hang together and support the people who really need our support right now. So with that, I mean, I think that's my little bit of hope. So, you know, it's good old Dickens, best of times, worst of times. As we've been saying throughout this episode, these executive orders are not the last word. They don't need to be the last word, but we do need people to show some spine and do the right thing. I want to see the Democrats in Congress, the opposition, I want to see them throw every piece of monkey wrench into the works to stall this stuff. I want to see every medical organization speak up. I want to see every legal association that is that stands in defense of human rights stand up. Not just for trans people, not just for gender diverse people, but for all people who are at risk. Immigrants, people of color, poor people, people on Medicare. We have built a better society over the course of the past 60, 70 years. One of the hardest things for me to watch is the resurgence of the mentality of the John Birch Society come into the mainstream, with everybody saying, oh no, it won't happen here. Well, it's happening here. And if we don't want it to continue to happen here, we have to put a stop to it. The only way we put a stop to it is to work together, find those secure spaces, and comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. That's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you, Steph. We mentioned at the beginning of the show, it's going to be a short show tonight because we don't have sports. So this last 45 minutes of the show is usually pretty dedicated to Carly's sports segment. We do anticipate Carly being back next week with great sports coverage, but we're probably going to
stuff.
We're probably going to wrap things up here because we've unpacked all that we had to unpack this week, and I am emotionally exhausted from everything that's going on. So I'd like to take another brain break from all this for another 7 days. But let me go ahead and do my plug now for my show. On Saturday morning, I do Live from the Hive on my main channel, Hive Sci. That's at HIVESCI. We do all kinds of fun stuff over there. Mostly it's about debunking nonsense, cryptozoology, ghosts and aliens, and conspiracy theories and quackery afoot. We tackle it all, and then we do maybe a little bit of animal stuff because ecology is my forte. But if you're interested, it's on Saturday mornings at 9:30 Central. That's 8:30 Mountain, where I am now, 7:30 Eastern, where Steph now sits. Or if you're out there on the West Coast, it's a bright and early 7:30 for you. So sorry if that's too early for a Saturday for you.
You flipped east and west, Bree, but hey,
Did
that's
I?
okay. It's
No.
nice and comfy for me.
You've got 'em
well, you
flipped.
got it. You
You've
got West
got 'em-
Coast, right?
You've got them flipped, not me.
No, you said West Coast
West-
is 7:30, which is right.
Right. And East
And
Coast is
East Coast is
10:30.
10:30.
Yeah. Is that what I said? What I say?
You said 7:30 East Coast, but that's okay.
Oh, I said 7:30 West Coast. Oh, okay.
You also said 7:30 East Coast. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
both coasts can be 7:30. Sure, whatever.
Oh, sure. Why not?
Anyway, but this week I've run a poll, and it looks like we are covering pyrokinesis. And getting weird with it. That's going to be an interesting one to tackle. And then the Clifton Bunny Man. If you don't know what the Clifton Bunny Man is, you better show up Saturday morning and find out, in case you find yourself in Clifton and you see a person in a bunny suit with an axe, because that could be scary. Steph, what do you got going on in the coming week?
No, not too much. I'm gonna, I'm gonna watch Trump's, or Satan's ice sculpture hopefully melt as
Be
time goes
gone.
on, and I'm gonna try to find places to reflect and find those places of sanctuary. It's a hard time, but just got to keep going somehow. Good times and bad times, I've seen them all. And my dear, I'm still here. Plush velvet sometimes just pretzels and beer, but I'm here.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for sticking with us. And yeah, we're gonna wrap things up right here, right now. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week with more news.
I'm